Welcome back everyone to Bridge the Divide. The following clip is taken from a crossexamine.org conference. You know, that apologetics company started up by that charlatan Frank Turek, and in it, professional apologist John Ferrer is fielding some questions from the audience. For those unfamiliar with him, John has an extensive background in theology and the philosophy of religion, and he makes his living as a speaker for crossexamine.org. He also held a fellow position with the Equal Rights Institute for a time, which at first glance would seem counterintuitive to his overall focus, until you find out that the ERI is an extremist anti-abortion group, making it totally on brand for him. Now, in this particular clip, John is presented with a question regarding what he thinks should be the church's tactics in addressing the growing influence of the LGBTQ community. Let's see how he handles it.
It seems the rainbow wave of unity plus activism has been faster, stronger, and more successful than Christians imagined.
Well, the person asking the question is correct. Advancements in establishing recognition and rights for the LGBTQ community have seen massive gains in society recently, and all of those successes are the culmination of the efforts of the tens of millions of people around the world who, in the face of the historic Christian campaign to systematically disenfranchise, denigrate, and ultimately destroy the identity of the LGBTQ community, have fought and sometimes sacrificed everything for its continued survival.
What advice would you give local churches seeking a strategy for addressing this culture shift?
How about embrace all individuals equally and on the merits of their character, and stop trying to destroy them based on the fact that your mythological circle jerk doesn't like them?
So the rainbow wave, the vast cultural influx of LGBTQ plus influence.
Given the derisive tone in which he's using the term rainbow wave, I'm guessing this isn't going to be a positive solution.
That has been a shock.
You know how naive you sound.
It really shouldn't be, John, given that you and people like you have literally tried everything to destroy them. Did you honestly think that they wouldn't fight back with everything that they had to survive?
It has been something that many Christians are still grasping for, some kind of, some resolution, some solution to the problem.
That's because the only legitimate solution to this problem that really only exists in the minds of Christians is for them to recognize how ignorant and antiquated their views are, admit they were wrong, apologize, and drop them.
And one of the risks that we run is looking for a quick fix.
So that's why you won't accept the actual solution to the problem that you've created. Because in your collective desperation, you're scrambling like mad to find a way around it without having to admit you were wrong.
Historically, solutions from the church for large-scale social problems are hardly ever a quick fix.
Whoa, hang on a second there, Johnny boy. Historically, the church solution to what they viewed to be large-scale problems were campaigns of genocide. Basically, you just hinted that you think the problem that Christians face when dealing with the LGBTQ community is that they're forced to find an alternate solution because they can no longer legally engage in the mass killing of community members.
Usually they're all long-term, deeply rooted foundation building type of things.
Yeah, long campaigns that established foundations that were in turn built upon the corpses of those the church decreed undesirable or irredeemable.
So I think this may sound counterintuitive, but one of the first bits of advice I would give to a church that's looking for some sort of strategy in addressing the rainbow wave,
I don't know, just acknowledge and accept them for who they are?
is focus on the family.
Double entendre humor. Focus on the family being about centering the church's work on reinforcing what it decrees to be a positive family unit, and because Focus on the Family is a fundamentalist Protestant organization that calls homosexuality an evil lie of Satan and is notorious for its rabid lobbying against the rights of the LGBTQ community.
I'm sure I'm probably promoting a well-known ministry there.
You don't say.
But if we can do healthy traditional family right, we have the potential to short circuit, cut off, hotwire a lot of the alternatives that people are appealing to.
Well, first, John, you'd actually have to convince people en masse just exactly why your version of a traditional healthy family is the standard that everyone in the world should follow. But that's not likely, seeing as how the research shows that kids raised by same-sex parents fare just as well, if not better, than those raised by straight parents. The evidence is just not on your side, Jojo.
Because their family was broken, or their family was hurt, or their family with such a bad experience.
Is this horseshit really what you've convinced yourself of in the wake of not being able to legally mass murder homosexuals? Because you're basically implying that families that have same-sex parents are not the result of people being gay and wanting to have kids, but instead they're just some sort of alternative structure because the same-sex parents' own families were broken?
How misguided are you?
Our focus on traditional marriage, traditional gender, traditional rearing of children is invaluable.
So pretty much every single focus on the family talking point.
And I think, unfortunately, a lot of the church across its history has treated these as secondary in terms of the intellectual importance.
So disenfranchising and denigrating the LGBTQ community throughout society is secondary to the way the church should be handling them. And what exactly would be the primary way, John?
What can we do to sort of fortify Christianity for future generations?
There's no need to fortify Christianity against the LGBTQ community, John, because they're not waging war against you. In fact, I'd hazard if Christianity wasn't openly engaging in a war against them, that they probably wouldn't even really care about you. All of this is happening because the Christian faith took it upon itself to openly attack them at every single turn, forcing them to defend themselves. And while you could simply stop attacking them and embrace them as fellow human beings, I have a sneaking suspicion that your collective persecution complex will not allow you to do that.
Yes, we need to win the university. Yes, we need to be a profound influence in the great conversations that are shaping society.
Not going defensively into every single conversation armed only with your fascistic feelings-based exclusionary ideology would be a huge step in the right direction.
But we also need to do family right.
I would very much like to hear by what mechanism you think you could possibly demonstrate that your version of a family is better or more successful than any other.
And I'm not talking about family as a combative type of thing.
You're literally advocating for Christians as a group to focus their attacks on LGBTQ families by spreading propaganda intent on delegitimizing them. That is the very essence of combative.
Or the apologetics against gay marriage or anything like that.
I will admit, it is hilarious watching you scramble in front of the camera like that, John, because for all the vitriol that you spew regarding the LGBTQ community from the safety of your inner circle, you're keenly aware that you're on camera in a public forum right now, so it behooves you to stow how you really feel and do everything you can to be as diplomatic as possible. Unfortunately, your eyes consistently darting back to the camera while you're speaking instead of staying fixed on your audience is a dead giveaway.
I'm talking about helping men to know what man means.
Unless you're referring to the scientific definition of a biological male, John, that is absolutely not what you want. What you actually want is for other men to believe what you and your ilk think man means in regards to socially constructed gender roles, which is probably something more in line with father figures seen in 1950s television programming.
Father knows best.
Helping women know what woman means.
Unfortunately for you, John, the whole subservient, barefoot, and pregnant in the kitchen trope has become totally passé.
Helping married couples know what marriage means from a biblical standpoint.
But here, in the year 2023, why exactly would or should anyone care about what a collection of ancient Iron Age Christian mythology books say about marriage?
You might say this is sort of a pre-apologetics role that I think the church can be really good at.
So basically, you want the church to refocus its efforts in undermining the LGBTQ community by demonstrating and teaching the benefits of living by the biblical standard. Now that may be your tactic, but fair warning, John, you're going to run into another problem. And that is simply because you can't justify that any of these supposed benefits you think come from the biblical standard are anything more than your opinion.
And without it, we struggle at the more traditional apologetics in addressing gay marriage, in addressing binary gender, in addressing biblical sexuality, biblical gender.
Probably because the number of people on the planet who have come to recognize that biblical interpretations do not correspond with reality is quite sizable and still growing.
We struggle with those if we don't have enough good reference points to turn to, saying, here's what traditional marriage looks like. Here's what healthy gender looks like.
No, John, what you're pointing at is what you think traditional marriage and gender roles look like based upon a cultural acceptance of the Bible. But there exists no mechanism for you to demonstrate how your interpretations are objectively better than anyone else's.
So I would say first and foremost, whatever your strategy is that you're looking for your church, start with taking family, traditional family seriously, and dig down deep into the fortifications for that.
In other words, just keep spreading their ignorant and societally exclusionary ideology.
Don't relegate that to just some practical church ministry. Understand the theology behind it and communicate that and how civilization grows out of that garden.
Sorry, John, but doubling down on your tactics is not going to get you anywhere. It's only going to cause more problems for you in the long run, because it was the church's use of these tactics that got them into this position in the first place. And no matter how you try to spin it, John, what you're actually advocating for is for the church to just keep doing the same thing it's always done over and over and over again while expecting different results. And you wonder why when people see you doing this, they call you crazy. Be safe, be excellent to each other. I'll see you next time.